How's it going, everybody? Mr. Charco here, and today we're going to be going over Washington Wishiwashi, coached by Lynn, and we're going to go over what his team has, kind of like how we did for the Toronto Typhlosions, and we're going to be doing that for the majority of this week. I'm thinking about starting a Nuzlocke here shortly, so I'm going to have to get me an emulator on my PC, and then I'm probably going to end up doing a Pokemon Platinum, but that'll be for another day. So yeah, we're going to start off by looking at his team. And basically, going over all his strengths and weaknesses and what I think he has really well, and yeah, all that good stuff. So, first thing I always look at is the speed tiers. He has pretty good speed tiers. He has, at least one Mon in each speed tier, which is good. And on his, he only has one Pokemon that's really fast, and that is Tapu Koko. Now, 130 base speed is obviously really good. But the good thing too is he does have Pokemon like Volcarona, Kartana. Who else can get some speed boost up in here? Cloyster, Shell Smash. So he's got some ability to get some faster mons. He can run like a Scarf Cortana. So even though like they're not quite over that 110 threshold, they are right there, and they are still fast mons for the most part. Even Honchkrow, 71 isn't the fastest. So yeah, so he's actually got some pretty decently fast mons. I don't see any way for him to make his team faster though. I think Honchkrow probably gets Tailwind, but it's so non-bulky that you only really want to use Honchkrow as your attacker. So I could definitely see that against his team, you can bring a really fast Mon that's good against Tapu Koko. And in all actuality, he won't be able to outspeed you unless he's able to set up. And the way you can take advantage of that is you can have your rocks or whatever else, and Volcarona and Cloyster, the two mons that, like I was saying earlier, would be able to outspeed eventually. They would get hurt. So I could definitely see a Tailwind mon benefiting him a lot. He does have Trick Room potential. Mega Steelix and Toxapex both can be really good under Trick Room. And he has two Trick Room setters, an Espeon and Dusclops, with Dusclops being the better Trick Room setter as it has a base 25 speed. Obviously, Espeon has a 110 base speed, which is really good. So if you're setting up Trick Room with Espeon, kind of like Cresselia, you're not setting it up to have Espeon benefit from it. You're setting it up for your other mons. So, but like I said, he does have two Trick Room setters, so at least he has the option, right, if he needs to. Espeon is very important for his team in a lot of ways. I think that this was one of his best picks out of just looking at the ones here. Because one, it gives him Magic Bounce, which is a much needed ability. It's always a great ability to have just as a threat. And it also gives him Heal Bell and Wish support. So I think Espeon is definitely a very invaluable pick for sure. We'll start off by looking at his typings here next. So as you can see here, he has 3 Steel types, 2 Water types, and 2 Poison types. All 3 of those types kind of complement each other in a way, at least in some form, right? Because Steel and Water, they have obviously for the grass switch ends, and then Poison for the grass or whatever. So all 3 of those, they actually do kind of benefit each other, so that's cool. And Steel type is one of the best types. If there's going to be any types that you're going to have 3 of, I definitely think you want it to be Water, Steel, or Fairy. I think those are the 3 best types overall. So I don't necessarily hate that he has 3 Steel types. And it does also help that all 3 of his Steel types do something different. But they also all share one thing, in that they all have, I guess Mega Steelix's special defense is not bad. 95 is good. But 31 special defense is one of the worst. And then Duraludon, you basically are never not going to see a Assault Vest Duraludon unless it's fully offensive or Focus Sash or something of that nature. So I do think that there is an issue in that aspect, that all of his Steel types have one thing in common, and that's that their weakest attribute is probably their special defense. Obviously, Mega Steelix has a lower HP stat, but and you're going to usually use Mega Steelix as a defensive wall. But the only good part about that too is, right, is say he only wants to bring Duraludon or he only wants to bring Mega Steelix, you kind of got a game plan. Is he going to bring a Dragon or is he going to bring the ground? Cortana, you're not really worried about the defense as much with Cortana, or the special defense, I mean, because basically what this mon's going to do is it's going to just come in and it's going to hit things hard. So he shouldn't have to be relying on Cortana for that special defense. And honestly, it's not the end of the world for Cortana because it's one of his attackers. So, but depending on how he wants to use Duraludon, it could be an issue. If he's using it as an offensive Duraludon, I don't see it as being as big of an issue. But if he wants like a well-rounded, kind of like how Duraludon usually play, like it just kind of does everything, good coverage, good pivot, I definitely feel like it has to have Assault Vest, and that kind of limits what you can do with it in team building. Now, he could go the screen route with Espeon. He could go light screen to help with his special defense weakness. And that's one way. Like I said, that just makes Espeon even better. But there's only so many things that Espeon can do each week to support your team. Now, we'll go through and look at his other options for special defense. Obviously, Toxapex is just one of the best tanks in the format. Tapu Koko, 75. Volcarona has really good special defense. Anything over 100 is pretty good. But the issue with Volcarona is always that it's a rock. It's rock type weakness. But, yeah. Like I said, Honchkrow, another Pokemon that doesn't take hits well. Espeon's decent at special defense. Like, pretty good, I guess. And then, really, all his other mons, he either has really good special defense or really bad special defense. So I think that you very much should look into getting maybe like one or two other mons that have that ability to have better special defense. I don't really understand your Toxicroak pick. I don't feel like, I kind of think it fills every role that every other Pokemon gets, because so many Pokemon in this game get what you call it? What's the new fighting move everything gets? Body Press. And like, I know that Body Press is a very good move, and it's very good for defensive Pokemon, because then you just hit a fighting move right back. So I don't really understand the Toxicroak pick. It is good that it gives you another poison type to absorb toxic spikes, but I definitely feel like looking at everything, that's kind of the weak one out. And I do think that I don't really understand the Duraludon pick as much. So these two are probably, like, if I was going to change anything, I'd go in that direction. I really do like the offensive pressure he puts on, though. He very much picked, right? He picked hard hitters, and he picked tanks exclusively. And I think he just needs more well-rounded Pokemon, if that makes sense. Because, but maybe that's the way he wants to play, right? Maybe that's the, I don't usually play that way. It's all about how you play. And I think that if that way works for you, he did get the win in the first week, then stick to it. But I definitely feel like it makes it easier for people to plan, because they know either they're going to be facing bulk or they're going to be facing glass cannons. So we'll go through his picks and kind of like what his thought process was for each pick. So I do have it in the order that he picked them. Like I said, Toxapex, you cannot go wrong as your first pick. Poison water type is pretty good. Water is obviously a great, amazing typing. And then poison is so good against fairy, and fairies are very strong. So Toxapex is a good pick. Tapu Koko, fairy type is very good, and there's not a lot of really good electric types. Tapu Koko is one of the best electric types. That Volt Switch is very, very good. So basically he gave his tank here, and he gave his Pokemon that can kind of run around, hit hard, it's fast, things of that nature. Complements Toxapex pretty well. Volcarona, he went for a very threatening Pokemon that requires setup typically. Now obviously you can run a Scarf on it, you can get enough EVs where you outspeed, and you can come in and Volcarona is going to be able to do a lot of damage, and it's going to be really hard to take it out unless you have a rock move. So Volcarona is a good pick, and it only gives him his first 4 times weakness. Next we have Cortana. Like I said earlier, basically if you throw a fire type at this Pokemon, it's dead. So it's all about if you're able to live it, but that's the hard part, is able to live it, right? It's 181 attack. So Cortana, luckily it is blessed with the steel type. So if you do try to run Focus Sash or whatever on it, and it's in sand, it will not get knocked out by the sand. So that's one way you can go about Cortana. One of the hardest hitting mons in the format. Grass isn't necessarily the best typing in the world, but steel definitely is amazing. Next you have Mega Steelix, which pairs very well with Toxapex as a wall. You could go special Pex, and then obviously defensive Mega Steelix. And he, with Sand Force, even has potential as an offensive Mega Steelix. I would maybe like to see him get a Pokemon that can call upon sand, or at least maybe like a Hippowdon. Obviously, I have Gigalith, so he'd have to go Hippowdon or Tyranitar at this point. But I think that if he did that, that would give a huge dimension. Now, obviously, some of his Pokemon like Volcarona, Coco, Pex doesn't hurt Pex too much. Honchkrow, they don't benefit from sand. So maybe that's not what he wants to do. That's just an idea. Maybe there's a week where he wants to bring a lot of his steel types and then bring like his, whatever. Next we have Honchkrow. And Honchkrow, another Pokemon, hits very hard. Really bad defense and special defense, and its speed, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's kind of in that mid, kind of like where it's not fast enough to really be a huge threat, and it's also not slow enough to be a Trick Room threat. Kind of like how Magnezone was for the other team. Any Pokemon between 60 and 70, it's just like, it's honestly probably the worst speed tier. Like I said, though, the offensive potential for Honchkrow is amazing. It's got really good coverage moves now, really hard-hitting moves. It does have Moxie and Super Luck. Like I said, he used it well in the first match. Me personally, the speed just doesn't do enough for me as a Pokemon that's supposed to be really fast. I mean, it's supposed to hit really hard because it does require a very circumstantial thing. So once again, another Mon that he kind of has to run Focus Sash on to be sure that he can get damage with it, right? All right, next we have Espeon, which, like I said, I think is my favorite pick that he has here. One that doesn't not only go so well with Pex, it also helps with Mega Steelix, and that Magic Bounce ability is one of my favorite abilities in the game. 130 special attack, and then it's obviously its defense and HP isn't that great, but his strongest attribute is arguably his defense and his ability to wall. So Espeon at 110 base speed, 130 special attack is a very strong Mon. And Synchronize is even an ability that you can use too. It's not as good in singles as Magic Bounce, but it's definitely there. And if he wants to go more offensive Espeon one week, he could definitely use the Synchronize ability. And it's got setup potential. Like I said, Espeon's a very good Mon. I think it's probably the most slept on Eevee, in my opinion. Next we have Duraludon, which is a pretty good Pokemon. It's probably the most versatile Pokemon he has on his team that can just kind of do it all. Besides obviously Coco. Obviously the special defense is not great, but like I said, a lot of people run Assault Vest Duraludons with 4 attacks. I think they kind of did bad with his abilities. His abilities don't help him that much, to be honest. But he is a good stealth rocker, especially if your opponent doesn't have a very strong special defense. A special attack. And he can go either direction. He can go with a special attack and Draco, and you could even have a mixed attacker that drops Dracos, and then it also has physical attacks after you drop your special attack. So Duraludon has potential for a pretty good set. I think it's somewhat of an odd man out, but he did need a dragon, and Duraludon was probably one of the better dragons left for at least value. So I definitely understand why he picked it. Next we go to Toxicroak. Like I said, it's probably my least favorite pick on his team. I just feel like it doesn't help a whole lot. Obviously, it hits hard, 106 attack and 85 base speed. But I feel like there's a lot of fighting types you could have got that would better if he's trying to get a fighting type at this point. So I maybe would like to see him switch Toxicroak around because you can't take advantage of the dry skin with no rain or anything like that. So yeah, definitely Toxicroak is kind of a head scratcher to me because I feel like he would benefit from either a slower, bulkier fighting type Pokemon or a really fast one to pair with Coco, so you have 2 really fast Mons. Obviously, Cortana and Espeon are both, even though they're in the 91 to 110, they're both right on the cusp of being very fast. But yeah, don't really have much to say about Toxicroak. I personally like Toxicroak, but I just think he has too many Pokemon that just die from one hit. And then once again, speaking of Pokemon that die from one hit, we have Cloyster with 45 special defense. But Cloyster checks off a lot of boxes for him. It has priority with the Ice Shard, which is one of the best priority moves in the meta. It has 180 base defense. So like going on what I was saying earlier, he's got very strong defense Pokemon. It has 95 attack, 85 special attack. But what you really like with Cloyster is that it has the ability to Shell Smash. And if you have Shell Smash, you could go Overcoat, Shell Armor, or Skill Link. Skill Link is usually what you use for an offensive one. But Overcoat is good for a defensive one because it doesn't get hurt by weather and things of that nature. And then Shell Armor is good because you guarantee not to get critted. So that's obviously always really good. Like I said, Cloyster's in Pokemon, his speed is only 70. But basically you're going to be using either priority if you're not faster or you're going to set up a Shell Smash. It does make the Pokemon somewhat one-dimensional. But he is able to run an Assault Vest variant. And I could even see that being like a lead at some point. set up spikes or even toxic spikes if he doesn't want to bring toxic spikes 1 week. So I think it's a good option, and I think it kind of fits the same mold as Toxapex, but obviously it's a lot less strong on the special side and a lot more powerful on the offensive side. But I do like how it kind of can fill the same role that Pex does, but just do different things. And then finally his last pick, which I think is another good pick. To this point, like I said, he had one Trick Room setter, and that was Espeon, and it was a fast Trick Room setter, so it wasn't the best Trick Room setter. I don't know if he even plans on doing Trick Room, but at least with Dusclops, he has potential to do that. Now, if I'm him, I would never bring Dusclops, Toxapex, and Steelix. You can maybe get by with Steelix. He does have the good base attacks, actually, maybe. But I feel like if you brought Pex and Dusclops in the same week, you're asking to get set up on by one of those, because both of them have terrible attack and special attack stats. Now, you can run Dusclops with Nightshade, and it's going to do 100 points of damage, because it does it based on its level. But if they're a normal type, I don't actually, does Nightshade affect normal types? I don't actually know that, because I know it's a ghost move, but I don't know. I actually don't know. But, so that's the only route really he could go with Dusclops. But Dusclops is a good Pokemon, can Will-O-Wisp, and basically if you're going to bring Dusclops, it's going to be a set Trick Room, because otherwise you're just going to just sponge hits all day. So looking at his team, like I said, we'll go down to his weaknesses and stuff. He doesn't have any, so he resists the hell out of Bug. Like, he has so many resistance to Bug. So that tells me that he could invest in types that are weak to Bug, as in Psychic, Dark, or even what's the other one? Grass. And the good thing about that is he can get one of those typings to go with that. Now, if I'm him, clearly his biggest weakness is ground and special defense. So if he can find a flying type Pokemon, or at least a Pokemon that has Levitate that has really good special defense, that would be the number one thing I would go for if I was him. And also, I would also go as far as to say get one that can set up Tailwind as well. So you can have your Pokemon that typically set up, like a Cortana or a Volcarona or even an Espeon, that are higher speed tiers but not the highest. If you set up Tailwind with those Pokemon, you can throw a Band or you can throw a Scarf or Specs or whatever you want to throw on there, and you're going to outspeed whatever the heck you want, and you're going to hit them really, really hard. And so that's definitely a route you could go with that. He has a really good priority. He has 7 Mons that are priority, so he's fine with that. I'm sure a lot of it's Sucker Punch. He has the fighting weakness, obviously, and only one ghost type, so maybe a stronger ghost type. Fighting isn't the biggest issue in the world for him, because he does have really good defense, and 90% of fighting types are physical. So it's not the biggest weakness in the world, and he probably won't bring all 3 stills to one given game. I don't know why it says that Espeon's 4 times weak to these Pokemon. It's clearly not. I guess it's just like a glitch in the system. But yeah, really only weakness I see is perhaps his hazard control. He has obviously Pex to absorb the toxic spikes. He has Espeon to Magic bounce them away. Other than that, he has Cloyster to Rapid Spin, but all his Defog Mons that have Defog, whereas Coco, Volcarona, Kartana, and even Honchkrow, you don't typically want to run Defog because they're not Pokemons. So he can literally fix 4 of his biggest issues by being able to draft 1 Mon. And if you can get you a special defense, Tailwind setter, and Defogger, you're good. And I have 1 Mon in mind if it's perfect for that, and that's Mandibuzz. Because you do already resist Bug, and it's neutral to Bug, because the flying type and the Dark type make it 0. And so would that give you another ice weakness, which you only have 1 of? So yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't get Mandibuzz, because then you have a really hard hitting Dark Flying they got to prep for, or you have a really tanky Dark Flying they got to prep for. And Mandibuzz also has the Overcoat. So if you also wanted to go the Sand route, you now have Cloyster with Overcoat. You have Mandibuzz with Overcoat. You have Sandforce, like a Steelix. You have a Steel type with Cortana. You have a Steel type with Duraludon. And Toxapex is so bulky it doesn't matter. That could be you could go the Sand route too, and make that very scary. And I think that if you do that, I think that's really all you need to make your team like dang near perfect. This website gives you a 91, which is an A, of course. And I think that if you're able to do, let me get rid of Toxic Oak here, and then let me get rid of let's just get rid of Duraludon for now. So let's add Mandibuzz, and I don't know how much it'll do because it is kind of same typing. And then we need to add, and then you don't have a dragon or a fighting for that. I'm trying to think who's a good. We'll just add Como-O just for the sake of getting the typings. Obviously, you're not going to probably get Como-O. But yeah, so just getting the Mandibuzz and the Como-O. Obviously, this site is very much loves typings if you feel the typings. But you can see down here, it'll give you a Tailwind. It doesn't count Tailwind down here for important moves. But Tailwind is a very important move. And like I said, 95 special defense, but that's really good paired with 110 HP, 105 defense. And you would literally have 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the best walls in the game to go along with your 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 just really hard hitting Pokemon. And I think that would be a great mix because the way it seems like you like to play, you're more of either you hit hard or you take hits. So I can appreciate that strategy. But overall, I definitely give your team an A. Because like I said, the only real weakness is the ground type weakness and the special defense weakness. But other than that, you could fix that super easy. And it's not the biggest issue in the world either. So I definitely think you did a good job drafting. And I think your team will be very it's going to be hard to prep for because you expect to be able to do something with like 1 or 2 Mons. But just be careful of like a Rock Polish Landorus or something like that because that could destroy your team as it is right now. But I think if you can bring 2 Pokemon that have Levitate and or Flying, like one other Flying type Pokemon, I think that would be perfect for you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Lynn, let me know if you think if I critiqued your team well. Let me know if you think if you like what I suggested. I mean, the way you are now, I think you can stay your team, but I think that you could definitely make it better, and there's no sense in not making it better, right? So yeah. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Y'all have a great rest of your day.